Okay, record. Okay, so let's get started. Going to the next section on Michi's book, and let me bring out what it is to show you where we are. And we've got to the beginning section, which was kind of beginner level, some initial, what's called initial tips and moving checkers around the board. And now we're getting into a little more advanced stuff. Last week we looked at tiger play. And we looked at Proverbs 7 and 8, attacking with 8 checkers weak, 10 checkers is strong, in the context of tiger play. However, these concepts apply to different areas as well. And now we're going to look at splitting. And so we're going to look at how these ideas apply to splitting. In fact, everything we looked at today is we're going to focus on splitting. There are some ideas that don't apply to more than just splitting, so we'll take a brief look at those. But I really want to focus mostly on splitting. And this diagram here, I've got Michi's concepts, and he's got a whole section on splitting. And I've got what I call my splitting rules, which kind of mostly agree with Michi's rules, Proverbs on splitting, but I think add a little bit more to it, and I think are useful, and I think a little easier, a little better organized, in that Michi has these proverbs. Some are very simple, and I thought that the first set were very simple to apply, and you can kind of go through them one by one and look at your moves and see which proverb applies. And then we get sort of proverbs that apply to many different circumstances, and it's less easy to pull them out when you need them. So I'm going to, but it's still worthwhile to look at his approach, and you may like this approach better, but I find it easier to say, whenever I want to split, I've got some splitting rules that I can look at. And if those rules tell me maybe I shouldn't split, then maybe I should rethink what I'm doing. And so anytime that I'm moving the back checker out of the 24 position, it's time to think about your splitting rules. So let's start off with kind of the concept. Michi reintroduced Michi last time, which is 8 checkers is weak, 10 checkers is strong. And what I have on the XG screen here is actually an example from Michi's book, not on splitting, but on showing that 8 checkers in the zone is weak. And I thought it was a very interesting example. I wouldn't have put this example where he did, but, and he didn't really talk about it. But let's see, what do you think? 3-2 to play for yellow. What are we going to do with this 3-2?
I'd bring 2 down.
You bring 2 down, okay. And why is that, Richard?
Well, it's a tough call between bringing 2 down and bringing 1 to the 8 point, because your 8 point is stripped.
Yep.
So you don't really have a builder there. But if you bring 2 down, then you can use the builders on the 6 point.
Okay. Yeah, good observations. Anyone else? Okay. Well, yeah, there's good, but there's another. It doesn't. The concept that goes kind of beyond Michi's books, more toward the middle game, is the bold safe concept, where there are certain situations where you can play bold and certain where you should play safe. And one of the considerations is, well, who has the better board? And if you have the better board, then you can play more boldly. If you don't have the better board, then you should play safely. In this case, black has the better board, And so you might think you want to play safely. However, let's look at the answer. And the answer is no, you don't come 2 down. You don't do 8 midpoint to 5, although that's the second best play, and you don't bring 2 down. Instead, you do what I would consider the bolder play. Michi shows this example to show that attacking with 8 checkers is weak. And so that's what black has done. You know, he only has 8 checkers and he makes 2 strong points, but the point is that's a weak structure because there's only 8 checkers there. Which I find that very interesting for 2 reasons, a couple of reasons. You know, often we think of attacking with 8 checkers weak and 10 are strong. Is that something that we're doing for ourselves? But this points out that, you know, you have to look at what your opponent's doing. And he's been attacking more or less. He hasn't really attacked because he can't, but he only has 8 checkers on his own. So he has something of a weak position. And so the idea here is to split here. Now, I wouldn't have used this example because this is, to me, this is splitting. And this is a question, do you split here or not? And anytime you move the back checkers, that's a split. So, you know, I bring that up. But Michi is showing here that, you know, he's not thinking of splitting, not at this point, but just showing the weakness of only having 8 checkers in the board, even though you've got the stronger board. So, I think that's interesting. But and I would, before really looking at this example and thinking about this example, I would have done one of Rich's play, either 2 down or probably 2 down, which would have been farther wrong, but 13 to 8 might have done as well. Because you know, I would be worried about this because a 2 or a 4, I get hit loose and then I have the weaker board, and you know, that's potentially a problem. But no, this is too weak. You should challenge it, come up with that. Very interesting idea. And that, you know, that we're only going to talk about that in this content in terms of splitting today, but it comes in at other points in time and in other areas. And Michi doesn't get to them because he's worried mostly about, his book is about the opening. So it comes in play later in the middle game and end game, but not here. What Michi does talk about, and we'll go over that now, is he says never split facing a blitzing structure. And so what does he mean by that? And so, bring it up. He means something very specific, and he gives 2 very specific guidelines to what a blitzing structure is. So I'll read them to you. So he says, we have 2 items on a checklist for which to judge whether we're facing a blitz formation or not. And point 1 is the opponent has a stacked point. So in this example, we've got 5 checkers here. Probably 4 checkers would count as a stack too, but 5 checkers is definitely a stacked point. And second item for blitzing structure is the opponent has a lot of checkers in the zone. He doesn't say what a lot is, but generally I interpreted that to be 10. 10 checkers in the zone. And it goes back to, you know, attacking with 10 checkers is strong, 8 is weak. So, I mean, it could theoretically be 9, but I think he means 10. He didn't specifically say. So when we look at this, now we have a 3-2 to play. And what do we do with that? So any ideas on what we do with this 3-2?
Well, then this would probably be the 13-11, 13-10. Because if they got 10 checkers that are a little stronger, they're definitely going to want to hit with the 2 or 4 loose or a 9. And so we might as well bring a couple down. If he or she does hit us deep, we've still got a lot of entry points and hitbacks, but then also we can start making our own prime.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and just going back to the rule. Now we have the opportunity to split here, and so the question is, should we split or not? And whenever we consider whether it's split or not, we should consider the splitting rules. And Michi's rule is don't split into a blitzing structure. So do we have a blitzing structure? Well, we have 10 checkers in the zone and we have one of them stacked. So that's a blitzing structure. Michi says, don't split. So if we know not to split, we're going to really do either one or two things. We're going to bring 2 down, or we're going to bring 1 to the 8 point. I would think 2 down would be right. I think Dennis said that, but yeah, and yes, it is correct. 2 down there. But the point here is that, okay, that you don't split here. Now let's just compare that to the last one, because this one seems, unless you know this rule, at first glance, this one seems safer than the one we just looked at. Remember, I'll put it on the side. This one. I don't know how well you can see that, but you've got a 3-point board here and a fairly strong 3-point board, and only a 2-point board here with only a 3-point mate. So, it can be deceiving to step into this when it's right to step into that and it's wrong to step into this. So,
what if it was a 4-2 there instead of the 3-2? Would you go? Because I would move it over the 24 to the 20 and then the 13 to the 11, no?
Well, Michi's rule is don't split into a blitzing structure. So
but you want to make that 20-point, right? You want to try to fight for it.
There's a rule to fight for it. But we'll look at the answer. But the point is that there's too much ammunition here to do that. And so let's see what you're looking at. This is the top play, second best play, which seems kind of silly, but anyway, that seems very silly. Yeah, look, we're down to here, and this is a huge blunder.
Wow.
Yeah. So
what's
I guess your point. Yeah, we want to. This is where, and I tell you, splitting is a little bit tricky because because you're right. We want to fight for the 5-point, but not when we're going to get blasted, I guess is the point. Okay. Now, let me bring this up. And the splitting rules that I generally use is that you have signs to split and signs not to split and signs to split. So signs to split is opponent has 10 checkers in the zone. So that's pretty much Michi's. A lot of checkers in the zone, which is kind of a blitzing structure. I think the stacked 5 or 8-point, which is generally where it is, it could be another point, it's a little bit secondary, but still important. So let's look at this again. So here,
you mean the stack 6-point and 8-point?
Yes. What did I say? I said.
No, it was written 5 and 8.
Yeah, that's what I meant. 6. I meant.
Oh, okay. Oh,
I meant 6 because you start with a stacked 6-point. So, and you start with an 8-point, which is point and a spare. So, it's unlikely that you'll get any other point that's stacked. I mean, if you get double 6s, you might stack the midpoint, or the 18-point. But I just miswrote that one and didn't know. Thank you for pointing it out. So, okay, so here now let's look at. So we have this blitzing structure here because Michi has 2 conditions for blitzing structure: 10 in the zone and a stock point. What if we had this? Okay. Now we still got 10 in the zone, but the point isn't, but the 6 point isn't stacked. So we technically haven't met this rule of Michi's rule of a blitzing structure. Now, Michi breaks up structures, really only identifies two Klein, which is blitzing or priming. And so I think he called this more of a priming structure because you don't have the stacks. The stacks are blitzing structure. And the reason he calls it a blitzing structure is because you can't really prime. If you put these two checkers here, you don't have enough checkers to fill in here to prime really. You put them back here, and now you can make this point or that point much more easily. So in any case, what do we do here? We're faced with 10 in the zone, but not a blitzing structure. What do you think?
Bring two down, no? From 13, 11, 10?
Okay, but why? Do we still have enough for Michi's rule? But you're saying not split.
Well, you don't have the stack. You don't have the stack. That was one
you don't have the stack.
Right?
So Michi's rule doesn't really tell you the answer because you haven't met the conditions for the rule. So he didn't really say whether you split. There's no explicit answer there to split or not to split. So, but the rule I have.
Yeah, but it looks like if you split, you're going to get nailed from the 16 or 17 one way or another if you try splitting.
So yeah, my sort of modification, actually I learned this before reading Michi's book, was 10 checkers or more in the zone is really enough in most cases to not split ordinarily. And then if you have the stacked 7 or 8 point, that's even 6 or 8 point, not the 5, 6 or 8, that's even a better reason not to split. It adds to it. So here, we just looked at one where you met Michi's condition. Let's look at this one. And the answer is still not to split, but as shown here, it's a little more ambiguous. So, if you split here, it's not really an error. So Michi is still right to point out that the blitzing structure is worse. However, if we go back and look and see what it was here, you still don't split. But now it's a huge blunder to split if you have all the Michi's conditions. So, and that's why I say if you have 10 checkers, that's usually enough to not split. Okay. Let's go on to the next one. All right, I want to speed this up a little bit. So here again, question is split or no split. What do we got? Oh, we got 10 checkers in the zone. Whoops, erased them. A 5 checker stack, so we got a blitzing structure. So splitting here should be a fairly big error. And it is. Well, not actually, this wasn't as big as the last one, but it's not the top play. So you do not split here. Let's move these. Now we have just 10 checkers in the zone, but no blitzing structure. And now splitting is okay. It's still, I still wouldn't split here. This right here. Because you've got 10 checkers in the zone, and I generally don't do that, but it's not as bad. Okay, so here's a case where actually Michi's rule helps you out more. get these right. These aren't. Okay. So you know, if you see Michi's rule fully identified where you're in the blitzing structure, that's a pretty strong sign not to split. Let's look at a few more. Okay, so we have 6-3 to play. Okay, the 6 has got to come here to cover the midpoint, the bar point. I mean, that should be your first move. And then what do you do? Okay, you don't have a lot of good choices. You could slot the 3, which isn't great. You could slot the 5, which you break your 8 points. So that's the problems with that. You could probably, your choices are either going to bring the 10 down, or 13 down to 10, or you're going to split. And splitting looks kind of natural here because there's no board. But what does Michi's rule tell you to do? Now so here's a case where, okay, you have the chance to split or not.
On the other hand, if you split, then your 6 is your 6 from the 4 point, from his 4 point is blocked. So it would seem like maybe bringing one down to give yourself a builder to use some small rolls. That's what I would be thinking.
Okay, well, and I'm trying to change that thinking because what I'm trying to tell you is
very much
is you have a chance to split here because you've got a 3 to play, and so whenever you have a chance to split, the first question should be, okay, what are the splitting rules, and is there a reason to suggest that I should not split? And here, there's a reason to suggest that you shouldn't split. And in this case, splitting isn't terrible, but the reason was, okay, 10 checkers in the zone, blitzing structure. 10 checkers in the zone, blitzing structure, don't split.
So Gary, it's also the case that all of his 6s, he could do something good with, or nearly all. Mm-hmm. Like 6-2, 6-4, 6-1, 6-3.
Mm-hmm.
He's double 6s. So, he'll hit you with a 6, but he has to give up something good he otherwise would have done.
I thought you just told me that covering the 7 point and bringing another one down was a bad idea.
No, I didn't. What you were thinking? Okay, you were providing all these.
I was thinking that move right there.
Yeah. What I'm trying to convey is that you have the opportunity to split here, and you're really, once we go back to the play. This is your first 6. You've got a 3 to play. And when you have the 3 to play and you have an opportunity to split, I want you to think of the splitting rules. Because, with the 3, the most obvious things to do are either to step up here or to come down. None of the other 3s make a lot of sense. So if one of your choices is to split, then apply the splitting rules. And if the splitting rules tell you to split, then that's probably the right thing to do. If the splitting rules tell you not to split, then it's probably the wrong thing to do and you should make the other play. Now, and it's as simple as that. Now, that will get you, I would say 90 to 95% of the time, that will give you the right play. And if you think more about other things, you're probably, you're overthinking it. And the observations may be right, but it's not that hard for something like this. Okay. So now, Richard, you were right. You were giving me all sorts of reasons, to come down here. Primarily, making this point, I think. But what you're really trying to do is avoid stepping into this and stepping into the opponent's blitzing structure.
So the first thought should be, do I split? And then you try to use the splitting rules to make the decision. Not the first thought is to bring one down.
Well, no, the first thought is to bring one down, because that's, you know, if you get a 6-3, okay, what are you going to do with your 6? Okay. Well,
you're going to cover with a 6.
You're going to cover with your 6. That's, you know, that you don't have another good 6. And now it may be different, you know, in this situation, there's no other good 6. I mean, you could bring it out. Your option is to bring this out here. But why would you do that? Because now you can't cover this. And you know, so.
Well, in this case, you could bring the 6 out and move the 7 to the 4. And then you've got his bar point.
Well, you don't have his bar point. You've slotted his bar point, and you've stacked a point ahead of, you know, of a point that you want to make, and you've given up making your own bar point, which is a strong point. Now it's the third of the, you know, 5-4 bar, but it's still a strong point. So, you know,
I was trying to make 3 moves with 2 dice. Forgive me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if you figure that out, that's pretty good, because that will win you a lot of matches, I think. But someone's likely to object or want to move their own 3 dice. Okay, so let's go.
So Gary, I got one question maybe you can answer later. So it's 8 checkers in the zone. You can split. 10 checkers don't split. How do you know what to do with 9 checkers?
Well, then you apply some of the other rules, which we'll get to.
Okay.
So it's 9 checkers is fuzzy, but you know, you can, some of the other rules should give you the guidance for it. And the answer is probably is that it's okay to split, but look to the other rules first. Okay, 4, 6. Okay. 6-2 to play. Don't really have a good 6. And typically, you know, when we have a 6, we bring it out from the back checker out to the bar point, which is a split. So you might ask, you know, there's no good 6, and we could bring it down, this one down to the 2, but that's, you know, that's not very good. It's a, you know, it's a blot in front of, and if we get hit, we go back a long way, and there's a 3-point board.
We do 13 to 5.
Yeah, that's an option. But let's answer the question first. Do we want to split here? Okay, so the answer to the question was, do we want to split? Well, we've got 11 checkers in the zone, and this is not sort of a blitzing structure, but 11 checkers in the zone. If 10 was strong, 11 is stronger. So the answer is we don't want to split. So then the question is, okay, these guys, and we can't split with the 2. So this guy's not coming out. What do we do with the 6? And we either, if we're going to bring him down here, what do we do with the 2? Well, we might as well bring him down here. There are actually fewer hits, and that's the point we'd rather make as opposed to the bar point. So the answer is going to be, 13 to 5. And you can see splitting in this case, here's a split, you know, is a huge blunder to split here. And you can tell that by, you know, checkers in the zone. So if you ask the question, you have the opportunity to split, ask the question, should I split here? What are the splitting rules? And this will tell you, don't split here. Okay. One more here. And here's another one, 2-1. Typically 2-1 is a split or slot to 5. We've already got the 5 slotted or 5-point made. So what do you want to do?
Well, you're in a blitzing situation again, right?
Yeah, but black has a blitzing structure.
So I would do 13, 11, and 6-5.
Yeah. 11 checkers in the zone, 2 stacks.
Yeah, big trouble.
Yeah, don't split. That's a big sign not to split. So yeah, it's either coming, probably 13-11 coming down, but or coming down 13-10, you bring another checker to make the 4-point. I think either one, I think those are the top 2 plays. Yeah, and it really doesn't matter which one you choose. But again, you know, with that blitzing structure, facing the blitzing structure, splitting is a huge blunder. Okay, we're actually up for the 30 minutes. I want to spend a few more minutes covering some other things that Michi says that kind of fall in together. And this is avoid stacked points and split against the stripped 8-point. And basically the basic idea here is don't set your checkers, a blot pretty much. Don't put a blot in front of a stack point. If you had to leave a blot, put it in front of a strip point. So just a few examples of what we mean by that. Here's a somewhat common situation where you've got a holding game going on. So you have a 5-2 to play. What do you do with it? Any ideas? Quickly, I don't want to spend
18, 13, 6, 4.
Okay.
18, 11.
18, 11, okay, and why?
Put in front of the stripped.
In front of the strip point, yeah. So yeah, I mean, if you do this, you're giving him a direct shot. And for a checker that he wants to move, and you will go way back in the race. So that's a little dangerous. If you do this, okay, you're putting a checker in front of a strip point. And, you know, if black hits the 4, hits you with the 4 and can't, well, even if he gets like a 4-1, he's left this point with us to be hit with a 6 and a 1. And we have, you know, we have the better board, and he doesn't have much of a board at all. So, yeah, this is an example of, you know, placing your checker in front of it. If you have a checker to place, put it in front of a strip point. Now, this is the second best play. You could play it safe as well, but now you're stripping that point and stacking that point. Still not a bad play.
Sorry, I didn't understand what a stripped point is.
Oh, strip point is when you have a point with 2 checkers on it. It's a point with no spare. So here's a point, so that if your opponent is going to hit you with it, he's going to break his point. And, you know, so with this play, unless black gets double 4s, or even maybe double 2s, he's got to break a point, break this point, which is, you know, which causes some pain. I mean, this is a strong point to have right now. So,
oh, I got it wrong. Okay, I thought a strip point was 1. That's why.
No, a single checker is just a block.
Okay.
Okay. Let's look at stack point. Here's kind of the classic example of don't place your checker in front of a stack point. So 6-2, what do you normally, now here, black opened with a 5-1, it came down with a 5 and split with the 1. And what do we do with the 6-2? Well, the normal play is to come out with the 6 and down with the 2, right? But here we have a stack point. So in this case, since we have the stack point, we don't want to place our checker in front of a stacked point. Let's just hop over it. Okay, so that's it's 8:37. I don't want to spend more time on that. We'll cover a little bit more of that next time, and then we'll get into the other splitting rules, which are, when do you split? and it will take a while to go over when do you split, and then we'll look at those. The splitting rules are a little bit tricky because you can have a situation where your opponent has 10 checkers or more in the zone. It may be a priming structure or blitzing structure or not, but it may still be right to split because you've got these other rules that generally are more important. And we'll get into those. But these are, you know, the main lesson I think for today is when you have the chance to split, consider your splitting rules and see if you have a reason to split or not split. And that will help you make a decision. Okay.
Hey, Gary.
Yeah.
First off, thank you for another amazing half hour. It's very appreciated. Is this, are these recorded that you can send it to me or I can access? I guess we're in 4 or 5 lessons so far.
They are, some of them are recorded. I don't think I managed to get the first 2 recorded.
Okay, that's all right. How about, I think there's 3.
I know we did
3 more.
This one is being recorded. Okay. So I can send you that. And I know the last one I had it set for recording. I didn't check to see if it was. So
so could you please, whatever you have recorded, could you email me, please?
Sure.
You got my email, obviously. So okay.
I don't know if I do or not. Let me just check a second.
So Gary, if you send me the recording link, I'll forward it to everybody.
Yeah. Okay.
That would work.
Yeah.
So this was great. Thank you very much, Gary. I would like to just announce that the Sunny Florida Online number 3 is coming up this Saturday. So if anybody would like to play in that, do register by sending me your $25